Soundgarden for you there on 77 WABC. This is Greg Rand. Listen to Rand on Real Estate. Our website is ownamerica.com. The station's website is wabcradio.com. We've been talking about different parts of the country and how they compare. And we have a call here from somebody from Long Island. Sharan, am I pronouncing that right?
Hi, this is Sharan, yes. How are you, sir?
How you doing? You're from Long Island and you're calling about Florida. That's great. What's your question?
I went to Florida last summer, and I was thinking of buying a property there in Deltona and Devonport. I don't know how's the Florida outlook right now. I'm just trying options.
Now, are you thinking? Tell me about what is the first step in this conversation is always what your plans are for it. Is this something that you're going to move into, something you're going to buy and rent out, or something you're going to try to
buy and rent out? I had an uncle who had a condo in Orlando, so I was talking to him, and I was just a first time investor. So
good.
Your show really helps.
Good. Well, I'm really glad you called because that's, I know a lot of people that are trying to get the courage up to be a first-time investor, and I think you found something. See, I'm a big fan of Florida, and I'll tell you why. Florida is getting beat up in a way just like Las Vegas has gotten beat up, particularly South Florida. Not really as high up as Daytona. Daytona is kind of in the upper middle part of the state on the East Coast. And so the first thing you know is that it's a coast. And so, there's only so much waterfront to go around, and Daytona is on there. But also South Florida did a lot of that mad investing and developing and speculating. They built 60,000 condos in South Florida all at one time and got themselves caught in the same kind of situation as Las Vegas. And that circumstance has created a massive foreclosure crisis in Florida, which is kind of dragging down the property values in the entire state. So even though Daytona didn't see the same kind of insane development that further down the coast did, it still got impacted by it. But you don't, like, for example, you didn't see a whole bunch of half-built high-rises on the beach in Daytona, did you?
Yes. I'm not talking about Daytona. I'm talking about Deltona, Devonport, area around Central Florida, outskirts of Orlando.
Okay, my apologies. I read Daytona on here. Deltona, okay, got it. Yeah, so the central part, kind of the planets that are surrounding the sun, which is Disney World, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's interesting. What's happening in Florida in the long term is completely based upon migration patterns. All right. If you take a really, really big step back and look at Florida, for the last 40 years, it has been gaining population faster than virtually any state in the country. And the reason is real simple. The climate. All right. People like it down there. It was a state that was developing slower than other parts of the Northeast, but right down that I-95 corridor, people from New York and Boston and even across into Chicago and Missouri, all those Northeast and Central states, people came down for the climate because it was too darn cold up in the Northeast. And what they found is paradise in America. And so that situation hasn't changed one bit. In fact, it's accelerating right now because you've got 72 million baby boomers, the largest percentage of them living in the population centers that I just named. And they're all looking at Florida, most of them, as their primarily identified market they want to retire to. And so the 10-year, 15-year outlook on Florida is absolutely outstanding. And that can be said for a lot of places around the country, but what can't be said for all of them is how beaten up Florida has gotten over the last couple of years. So Florida, the entire state, is a beautiful example. I say beautiful. I don't mean to be insensitive to anybody who's losing a home in Florida when I say that, but it's a great example of short-term pain inherent in a place where there's awesome long-term gain. And that goes for the inland communities as well. I mean, what's the approximate price of the place you're looking at?
I'm still looking into it. I mean, what's an average, small regular home,
So you're thinking it's under $100,000, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now you're coming from Long Island. You can't buy a postage stamp in Long Island for under $100,000. You can buy a 3-family house. I'm sorry, a 3-bedroom house in that community. And what's happening in Greater Orlando is they, just like Las Vegas, they know they've got a fantastic economic driver in Disney World and all the other entertainment facilities around, but they've also been reaching out to try to attract other kinds of businesses so as not to be too overly dependent on one aspect of their economy, namely tourism and travel. So I like it. And, I like your plan because what you said out of the gate is that you would buy it. You're going to put a decent sized down payment down. Hopefully, if you do that, what you're going to end up with is a positive cash flow. So you meet your tenants, you get a good tenant in down there, and let them pay your mortgage down over the next bunch of years, and then you're going to find that you're going to make a fantastic return because you're going to make money along the way. But Florida is absolutely poised for beautiful appreciation over the next 10 years.
Any options in southern Florida that you would recommend besides Orlando area or, In
South Florida, there are, in the price points, I'm a big fan of the west coast of Florida. Fort Myers area is one of the places we've talked about on this show because if you come just 10 or 15 miles inland from the coast in Fort Myers, you can buy properties that are so beaten down by this crisis that you can get them for under $60,000 and rent them out for a profit. So I like the West Coast. I like the East Coast also. I'm not, I kind of, if it's an investment, I kind of get away from the waterfront stuff because the waterfront stuff, that's for people who want to retire there and the costs are too high to really be sure you can cover your expenses. But if you just go a little bit inland where regular everyday folks are gonna live and rent from you, that I think is the right way to go. So thank you, Sharan. I appreciate your call. We've got George from Manchester, New Jersey, who's got a theory on how we can fix the housing market. How you doing, George?
Good. How are you today?
Good, thank you. So what are you thinking?
Oh, I'm going to try and lay it out for you as quick as I can. There's about 2 million houses in foreclosure, okay? The market is terrible because the prices keep dropping. The people that own homes have lost so much equity. A lot of these houses are destroyed. The banks got paid from the federal government. These houses aren't worth hardly anything. And the problem is the land never goes bad. So my idea is, if they bulldoze a lot of these houses that aren't worth anything, put them in a dumpster and recycle that material and put those lots up in some kind of pool for a fair market value, some people can start building a house again. What it's going to do, it's going to create the market positively where people are going to start to buy again, and the prices ain't going to keep dropping the way they have.
All right, interesting. So this is the knock the houses down solution, and I've heard this tossed about a little bit. And it's an interesting idea because housing is a straight-up supply-demand situation, okay? We have an oversupply right now. The oversupply has to do with a lot of development in some places that we've talked a lot about already today, but also a lot of foreclosures, properties languishing on the market, and that has a way of driving down prices. Not enough demand, too much supply. So what do? Just knock down the supply, reduce the number of available properties on the market, and it's kind of like, well, I won't give you an analogy. I'll just go straight at it. My only problem with that solution, and I appreciate it, George, my only problem with it is that it costs money. There was economic value that was put into those properties. Okay? It costs money. People were compensated to build them. Supplies were used to build them. Sure, you can recycle them, but once they're actually structured into a standing piece of improved property, a structure, a home, you've created some economic value there, or you've spent some economic value, and then you're just going to throw it away. There is something wrong about that, the way it strikes me. And I'd rather see the market heal. Okay. All we really need in this situation right now, we don't have so much inventory on a nationwide basis that it's untenable. What we've got is a level of pessimism in the populace right now where people are saying, I don't want to take my money and put it at risk right now until I see something happening on the positive side. And that was 6 months ago. And as I've been talking about here, what we've seen over the last couple of months is a change. We've seen an increase in home sales in December, an increase in new home sales in December, an increase in auto sales, decrease in unemployment, stock market jumping past 12,000. All of those things are giving us a sense that before we start tearing houses down, George, and I appreciate your call, I want to see if the market can heal in a traditional way, which is just confidence coming back and people buying real estate. All right. Thank you for your call. We've got...
Yeah, well, we're going to take a quick one and and come back. We've got more phone calls for your great show, Rand on Real Estate. Okay, I'm getting just what an education.
Hang on, guys. This is Rand on Real Estate on 77 WABC. We'll be back in about a minute and a half. Thanks.